This is the 2025 Canyons 100K preview episode, joined by friends, colleagues, Leah Yingling, Brett Hornig. A couple things before we get started. I think we might have talked about this in 2024, but just a bit of interesting history that unites all of us. Back in 2021, Brett ran the Canyons 100K. And it should be noted that 2 weeks before that, raced the Peterson Ridge Rumble. Took first place, took down Jeff Stern and Ryan Kaiser, so no slouch result there. But 2 weeks later, mysteriously, a 32nd place finish. Leah and I race Canyons the next year. Leah gets the golden ticket, takes second, super impressive. I finish a respectable 39th in 11.
And you were covered in mud, too.
And I fell with 50 feet to go. Yeah. I took this turn, and I thought that was going to be the finish line, and I totally ate shit. I was perfectly clean until then. And
I think we should share in the show notes a picture of you at the end of that race, because I think you had that was the era of your mustache. You were wearing like a bucket hat.
It was a bucket hat, yeah.
Was covered in mud.
Yeah, that was good. I was spectating that year.
Okay.
I was there at the finish.
That's
yeah,
right.
And a lot has changed. That was an uphill race. This year's race is, a lot of climbing up front, but it's downhill to Auburn. Brett, can you take us back in the history of your racing career to the Peterson Ridge Canyons double?
So that double was it was unplanned. It was, all focus was on Peterson because I was doing kind of like an exaggerated marathon block. And then I finished Peterson, and then David Laney was like, "Hey dude, I'm going to be passing through Ashland on the way to Canyons. Do you want to come down with me?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds cool." And then he was like, "Hey, some spots opened up. You should just race it." And then I was like, "Why would I do that?" He's like, "Dude, get your state's qualifier out of the way." And then I talked to Hal Kerner over at the running store, and he was like, "Oh yeah, dude, Peterson's just a great training run. Like, you'll feel like crap for the first 2 hours, and then you'll feel good for 2 more hours, then you'll probably feel like crap for the rest, but you'll probably get it done." He was absolutely right. I did not feel good at all, but I did get it done. And then because I happened to grind my way through that race, the next year I ran Western States on the Rogue Valley Runners aid station spot, and I was only eligible because of that race. So I'm really glad that I did last minute jump into that race.
Because weren't there a couple years where Ryan Gelfie wanted that spot, but he didn't happen to have a qualifier at the time or something like that? It was something weird.
Yeah, it was always something or other with either not having a qualifier or him already like doing other things, or the spot was going to someone else. And
I will say it's nice that they still hold the volunteer spots. Like, they hold that standard the same for volunteers. Like, you still need to have a qualifier, because I think that'd be a little unfair if you didn't.
Yep. Same with the sponsor spots as well. You can't just go and run the race. You have to have run a previous qualifier, which I think is cool. Keeps it fair.
Leah, was this the most pivotal race of your career if you look back, Canyons 2022?
I think so. Yeah. Actually, I would argue, I know it was a way less glamorous result, but Canyons 2021 in my head at that time was the most pivotal result in my life, because I think I got 5th that year, and me and Becca Wendell were like just minutes off of a golden ticket position ourselves. And I think that was the first time that I truly like told myself that I belonged. I was confident. And like, I looked around on the starting line thinking like, I can compete with all of these women. So I would argue 2021 was like my internal pivotal point, but I think my external pivotal point was definitely the 2022 golden ticket race there.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Our first head-to-head matchup.
Yeah, that was a good one. The best.
One other fun fact. A year ago today we recorded, and Brett was almost the dad. He was like 2 weeks away from being a dad.
Yeah, because you were getting ready to do Cocodona. And it was, you were in like a similar stage of life with like, oh man, I'm about to be in labor for 6 days. I wonder what's going to happen. And so Benji's first birthday is coming up.
Wow.
Hell yeah. Okay, well, diving into this year's race, I think before we get into men's and women's field, we should talk a bit about the course, but also some news. So no live stream this year. And initial thoughts, like, this is a golden ticket race. Live streams at this level stature race seem like a given for the most part, although I know Gorge didn't have one as well. Leah, initial thoughts there, like the absence of a live stream.
I think my initial thoughts are if you're not going to have a live stream, you need to have world-class timing that you can follow. And I will say, from observing the last couple years at Canyons and other golden ticket races across the country and the world, I think sometimes the timing systems fail quite a bit. And Canyons is no exception. Like, there were the years where like Adam Mary and Justin Grunwald went like AWOL out on course despite being there. And then we had these surprises in like the last mile or two. So I think we need to have good timing if we're not going to have a live stream. However, we most definitely should have a live stream for a golden ticket race, especially one that, I mean, is one that's had a live stream before too. And it was pretty good. I know there was some criticisms of it last year for like the parity of coverage as it related to women and men. However, like, it's possible. They do it at Western States. They did it at Canyons last year. We should be having a live stream here.
Well, now we're getting equal coverage because there's no coverage.
How about none at all? I thought the graphics package was cool last year. That was one of the things that stuck out to me, like the overlays they had when they didn't have cameras on the runners and stuff like that.
Sweet squiggly lines and neon and all stuff. But no, Leah, I agree. It wasn't perfect last year, but I think it was still way better than not having one at all, especially since you can't really follow the race just on timing, and we're not getting, it's not like, I don't think I Run Far is going to step in on Twitter and go back to the old school way, which that would even be better. So yeah, it's like, I don't really know how to follow the race other than like follow a whole bunch of people on Instagram who are like associated with it, make a little collection or something and follow it that way.
Point. There's not really any good options. So much so that I'm tempted to go out to the race just so I can follow it.
Well, I was just going to say, like with Gorge last weekend, I thought a cool midway point was like, Ryan and Mike getting footage in the field, bringing it back for the pre and post race stuff. And I wonder if, I don't know for sure, but I wonder if Free Trail just goes down and does similar coverage this year for Canyons.
I hope so. I think at the very least, like if we could get that, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They just need to be like incentivized accordingly for it. Cause like, I understand why they're doing it for Gorge, but like, I don't see why they would do it for Canyons for no reason.
That's a good point.
Which I don't know. I think that's fair, but UTMB should be, I don't know, they should be doing something about this because it's going to be a good race. Like we've got some cool, storylines to talk about, and I think by the time everyone's done listening to this episode, they're going to be like booking my plane ticket to Sacramento International Airport and hitching my way to Auburn.
I kind of want to do a 24-hour trip, like fly out of Salt Lake to Sacramento late Friday night after work, just spend 24 hours raging on the course with content, observing, come back to Salt Lake. Yeah. There's like a red eye or something Saturday night after the race.
I know Mike and I keep going back and forth on it. We like keep looking at each other like, should we go? Should we? And then we're like,
right, we should talk more about this. We should talk more about this.
And then also last year we were talking about how 10 people on the men's side, women's side were going to CCC auto qualifying, and this year it's no longer the America's Major. Do either of you have any intel on why that changed from Canyons to Kodiak? Or to us, is it a mystery?
I just have my own theories, but I don't have any real answer. My main theory for why they dropped this as the North America Major was because Canyons was always going to be a golden ticket race first and foremost, and the North American Major second. And I'm sure UTMB didn't want their star race to be the afterthought when, like, I'm tuning into Canyons to see who's getting golden tickets, not to see who in the top 10's qualifying for CCC. So
totally,
that's my guess, is that they wanted the spotlight to be on not a golden ticket race. Although, isn't Kodiak becoming a golden ticket race next year, or is that not a thing? Am I making that up?
I think you're making that up.
I don't know.
No, because I was like, okay, so as of right now, they're two separate entities now.
I know at the very least they announced that after Western States training camp sometime, because I recall running last year at training camp and then hearing like what the golden ticket races were going to be pretty soon. So we should know probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks or so.
Which, like, I don't know. It doesn't really, I mean, now I'm fully going off on my own imagination because apparently I'm just saying things that are made up, but it doesn't make much sense to me to turn Kodiak into a golden ticket race. It does. I don't know. It seems fine to make it the North America major.
Yeah. By the way, for the audience, no sleep till Auburn applies to Brett now. He just traveled from the Big Island. 3 hours sleep.
Dude, oh my God. I mean, props to Benji, first off, because we had a 5-hour layover in Seattle. So, like, he had to deal with a 5-hour flight to Seattle, and then we had to dick around at the airport for 5 more hours before getting into Medford at midnight. And we didn't get home till 1. And he's just been like the happiest camper today. But he did also wake up like when the sun came up this morning and was ready to party. So, yeah, pretty tired today. We'll see what happens.
One last bit of news before we get into the course, the races. This is now a super golden ticket race. So 3 tickets on the line, both the men's and women's side. This was surprising to me because when the news broke that the major was going to Kodiak, I wondered, are we going to see this dismantling of canyons on all fronts as an important race on the North American scene? And like at the same time that happened, Dylan, Topher, Craig had that free trail episode saying, okay, here's our lineup this year. And Canyons was a super golden ticket race, which I think is awesome.
So this golden ticket that Canyons got, is that one of the golden tickets that came from like Doi Intanon, or where did this ticket come from? Because we were talking about like the total number didn't change.
Yeah.
Like I can't put together in my head. I'm too tired to figure out how it got reallocated.
So last year there was like, we know like the main headlining ones, but then the additional ones were like Grindstone, Nice, and Doi Intanon, Thailand. So that was like 6 across those. I want to say this year then it's like Tarawera got 2, and then
Chianti instead of Nice.
2. And then we had 3 at CCC, 3 at Black Canyon, 3 here. So I think we lost 1 golden ticket race, but gained tickets from those.
How do you feel about that, going deeper into a single golden ticket race versus just adding an entire other race?
Yeah, I remember about a month ago, I looked at the Canyons women's entrance list, or like 2 months ago, and I was like, I feel like this race doesn't deserve a 3rd ticket. Like it didn't feel incredibly deep. Like it felt pretty similar to the other golden ticket races like Javelina and Tarawera, for example. I would say like the more I've like looked at all the entries on there, I do think it is like a little bit deeper than I initially imagined, and like maybe 3 is warranted, but I also think the field is totally fitting for 2 tickets here too.
Okay. Moving on to the course. This is the 2nd straight year. So no consecutive years with sort of the same course in place, if I have that correct. I thought
it's like the first time ever that's happened.
Yeah. We've had quite a bit of turbulence here the last 4 to 5 years. I remember when Jimmy Elam got the ticket in 2019, and it was sort of that like seesaw from Forest Hill, right?
Yeah, it was like 2 out and backs.
2 out and backs. Yeah, so we've come a long way. We used to run from Auburn to China Wall, and now we're going in the opposite direction. From what we saw last year, Rod with an amazing win, Katie with an amazing win. I think that the women's, Katie was like 9:20, right? And then the podium was like just over 10 hours.
Yeah.
Rod was like 8:40, and the podium was all sub 9. Do you have any like changes from what we discussed last year about the course specific strengths here and what it takes to be successful at Canyons, Leah?
Not necessarily. Like I think people might look at this and be like, oh man, because it's going from China Wall to Auburn, it's all downhill. It's net downhill. Yes, it is net downhill, but I actually do think the climbing was a bit more significant than we gave it credit for in our preview last year. I think that actually does pile on early in the race, and it starts off fast. Like they're fast miles. It's like this nice trending downhill for a while before they get into the climbing. So I think we saw a lot of the runners out at a hot pace last year get a little clobbered by the climbing, and then saw a lot of people bonk pretty decently in the later miles. So especially in the heat of the day. So I think you have to be somebody that can do a little bit of everything here, and you definitely have to still have some climbing on your legs, despite this being as significant of a net downhill as it is.
Yeah, I agree. You have to be I guess what I learned from last year with Katie and Rod is you have to be a pretty steady downhill runner, but you also have to commit to being kind of aggressive. I remember one of the last Boulder Boys podcasts that I listened to, they were talking about canyons, and Matt Daniels was talking about how when they were going up, because I guess one of the things that's different about this China Wall to Auburn course from when we ran Auburn to China Wall was they now do an out and back down to Swinging Bridge and back up, which is very steep and would be tough to run down, just immediately turn around and come back up. But it gets pretty congested there because it's somewhat early on in the race and it's steep single track. So it's hard to just navigate the fields when you're coming up and 500 other people are coming down it. But yes, there was one moment where Rod was in the front and Drew looked up and saw that a gap was forming and immediately like went off to the side of the trail and started sprinting because he was like, I need to get that. And Matt was like, no, I'll catch them later. And he just totally disappeared. Like by the time they got to the top of the climb, they had put, 3 or 4 minutes on him. And, Drew ended up, staying in that like podium spot all day. But I thought that was interesting how Matt was talking about how such a pivotal move happened like 10 miles into the race. And then that was that ended up being the elastic snapping. And we see things like that happening earlier and earlier in the races this year where you need to stay on top of who's doing what and really pay attention. So, I think this last year proved to me that being aggressive and confident in your moves do pay off.
Totally. I wish that one of the lessons that I learned last year is I wish I had appreciated the gravity of what Rod did at Canyons, because it truly was a prelude to what he did at Western. Like he learned his lesson at Black Canyon. Don't let the race get strung out. Fight early. Stick your neck in it. And like he wasn't going to change that strategy from Canyons to Western. Like just because he got a golden ticket at Canyons and the turnaround to Western is sooner than other golden ticket races, like he was practicing the strategy that if he got in, he was going to execute at States. And I wish I had made that connection, but I didn't count Rod out, but it was more just like, I hope he can survive the toll of that race and put together a good top 5, top 10 effort, not like give Jim a run for his money from start to finish.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think what we see at Canyons is it's a good opportunity for runners to test themselves, test race strategies especially, and tweak a few things before they step foot on the Western States course in a few months. So that perspective being applied directly to those who already are into Western States, which is actually quite a few people in this year's field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a nice opportunity to test like some of the gear, the fueling, the hydration. Like how do you handle 120 grams of carbs an hour when running downhill out of Forest Hill when it's starting to get hot? Like this is a great time to go see if you're going to puke your guts out or not.
Yeah, and I do think I'm just glancing at the course profile here. So the course starts with 2,500 feet of descending in eight miles. And I think it's a perfect opportunity to completely like thrash your quads before you have to go do more climbing, and then settle into like quite a bit of runnable stuff for the last, especially like 20, 25 miles, which I think simulates Western States. I mean, obviously it simulates Western States well. It's on the same course, but it does simulate the feelings that you get late in Western States extremely well.
Leah, how much stock do you put in like an all-around good ultra trail runner in the mountains versus somebody who, like, if you go to their ultra sign up or UTMB index, they have this history of racing 100Ks with like this amount of descending, especially in the back half where like you need that fatigue resistance to like not disintegrate. I mean, because like a good example for me is in your race in 22, Sarah Beal, she's in podium position all day. I don't know if did you pass her like because of the descending?
Yes, yeah. And I think that you bring up a good point because we saw something similar with like Mary Denholm last year. This was her like first, I'd say, major trail race against a competitive field. And she ended up having a pretty tough time in like the last like round mile 40 or so. And I think she ended up dropping out of this race, I'm pretty sure. But I think it was something similar to that of like the road caliber and like just the faster trail running didn't exactly translate on that day to somebody who is like a bit newer to like 100K on trail.
One more thing before the women's race, Brett, I want to bring in conversational pace analysis. This is an interesting question, at least to me. I think it was fascinating that, for example, Seth Ruling won Black Canyon in a non-plated shoe, like a non-super shoe category shoe. Are we going to see that type of trend continue? And is that just an isolated thing to North Face?
Well, the entire men's podium was not wearing trail super shoes or
That's
any
right.
super shoes of that matter at Black Canyon. And then I guess on the opposite side, I think the women's podium was full super shoe. So I don't know. It still seems like if you take all the big races in the last like 12 months, it's still pretty super shoe dominant. It seems like Black Canyon was kind of like a fluke in that regard. I think we're going to see, I don't think, because the question that you had written out was like, are we going to see anything like new? Like what should we be on the lookout for? And I feel like it's at this point right now, it's kind of just refinements in what is kind of trending. So it's like, we'll see super foams. Some will have plates, some will not. Whereas like last year, there wasn't really any that didn't have it. But we'll see some without. Yeah, people are still, now that, I think, 2025 is the year of water, whereas last year was the year of carbs. People are going to have to try and figure out how they can more efficiently carry that third or even fourth bottle on them for hydration. So maybe we start to see a few more packs out there again, or like, full inner tube, naked belt sort of things. So yeah, I think it's just refinement. There are a few new shoes, like, Jeff McGavro, he's racing the 100K, and I imagine we see him in like On's new trail super shoe. I would assume that's what he's going to wear at Western States. So it would be probably a nice time to look at the course and feel it with that shoe and see if he could go with that, or if he would go back to like their road super shoe, the Cloud Boom Strike, like what he wore at Javelina. You could go either way, I think, with this course, really.
Moving on to the women's field, Leah, starting with you. I know you were saying just a moment ago that at least 2 months ago, I don't want to say you had your doubts about the field, but you were surprised that it wasn't building to the level of a super golden ticket race. So now that we're 7 to 10 days out, what are the emerging storylines? What is interesting to you about this field?
Yeah, I think looking at this field, and I feel like we say this in every single preview, but it just rings true. Like, there's a lot of returning and past golden ticket winners in this race. I think I ended up counting 10 on the women's side who have achieved a golden ticket in the past. Anna Loudon, Kareth Arnold, Erin Clark, Emily Hoggood, Priscilla Forgy. Those two are both already into Western States. Hilly Henninger, Aroa Sio, Marianne Hogan, Jasmine Lothar, and Elsa McDonald.
Wow.
So they're all women who have received golden tickets in recent years and then also lined up at Western States in recent years as well, several of them being on the podium, if not too far off. And we also have a selection of women who have performed extremely well at Canyons, whether it was various iterations of the course, but know the course, know the trails well. And even from last year's top 10 at Canyons, we've got 5 returners and 3 from the top 5 from 2023. So I think a lot of people who are intimate with the trail know it well. And I would not be surprised if we see our podium comprised of largely those people.
Is there someone in that group to you that is playing the role that Katie Scheid played last year, that is this so absolutely clear front runner, or is there more parity there?
I don't think there's a headlining favorite in this field. I think the person with the least amount to lose is Emily Hoggood. And I think she would use this as an opportunity to test a Western States strategy. So I wouldn't be surprised if she ran as if she has nothing to lose, because she really doesn't. She's into Western States for the 100th time, and she knows how to race that course. And I think I'm excited to see her against a competitive U.S. women's field. I think most recently we saw her with a second place finish. I want to say at is that at like Tenerife?
Yes.
Yeah, second place out there. So excited to see. I know she's been putting in a lot of like speed work and everything, and spends a ton of time on the course.
And the year that Ruth Croft won Western States, Emily Hogan went out with Ruth for the first 50K or more.
Yeah.
Like pretty much in the lead. So it's not like Emily is a stranger to going out hard on the Western States course. It would be really cool to see her, key off of like Katie's splits from last year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if she did, and then just kind of keyed off of like how truly comfortable that feels, and like brings it back if it's not comfortable. I just realized I forgot Katie Asmuth too, another past golden ticket recipient. So that's 11. But yeah, I think that Katie came to mind because Brett and I were chatting earlier today about like, okay, let's say Emily does kind of gun it from the start. Who are people that like would not be afraid to go with her? And I think Katie would definitely be one of those people.
Did you say Marianne Hogan for a previous golden ticket winner as well?
Yeah.
Well, she's one who I could see having no fear with anyone going to the front. Like she'll match it, I think, no matter what.
Yeah, and I think of all the people that I listed, and that was just the past golden ticket winners. We didn't even get to the rest of the field who hasn't gotten a golden ticket yet. But Marianne is one of the people that I am like always most fearful to race because she is so good at racing. Like her training is also intimidating in itself. She puts in a ton of volume. But in terms of like workouts and stuff, I'm always looking at it like, oh, I could do that. But then you line up against Marianne on a race day and she just completely slaughters you.
Yeah.
So
it's like, you're like, oh, she's going out way too hard. She's going to blow up. Then she doesn't blow up.
She doesn't blow up. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick someone, it's Emily Hogan that's dictating early, you think?
Yeah, I think Emily Hogan, Marianne Hogan, probably one of those two.
Yeah, I agree with that. Of the 11 that you had listed for having gotten a previous golden ticket, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of them have already raced a golden ticket race this season.
Dang.
That's a great stat.
What are you calling this? Are you starting with Cavallina?
Raced for a golden ticket for Western States 2025. Actually, I'm looking at my list. Has Anna McKenna gotten a golden ticket?
No, she hasn't gotten one, but she raced for
Okay, yeah, I had her in my list for. So there's a lot of people who are racing their second or more golden ticket race this season. So I feel like a lot of like obvious reason for why they are here.
100%. Yeah. Who do you think wants to get back to Western States the most from that group?
I would have to say Katie Asmuth.
Yeah, I was going to say the same.
Like, I mean, I guess partly because she's been so vocal about it, but like it truly seems like she like loves Western States. The other person I feel like might be Marianne Hogan. She's run really well at States, but probably I bet if you asked her like, do you think you have more to give out there on that course, she would probably say yes, because I feel like she's had better performances than her best Western States since then. So, if you're a better runner from the last time you raced Western States, it'd be kind of fun to go try and do it again.
Totally.
With Katie as well, she wasn't competed out of the race. It was an injury in the off season, right? Or actually, I guess she was running with an injury and but was still on this upswing of performances at the race. So there has to be this feeling of unfinished business where it's like all of the evidence points in the direction of this upward trajectory at Western. I am a part of this era that is pushing the sport forward. Maybe I run sub 17 next year. Who knows? Maybe I'm in contention for podium, second, the win. I don't know. So I feel like there's a lot of potential there as well.
I think so.
Okay. How about, are we on course record watch here, Leah? Like, are you expecting any performances that redefine the race at all? Or,
No.
Actually, I'll say this too. Before I'll preface that question with, we've been having this really interesting offline discussion about whether as the sport gets more competitive and there's more money on the line, sponsorships, whatever, do these races start to look more like Grand Slam track in that 5K we saw a few weekends back where it's like they're running 75-second splits? Are we seeing like will we see like a slowing down of the race and more strategy that way to get it done?
I don't think so, honestly. I think there still feels like there's too much on the line for these runners to like run a bit too tactically. And I think what we're seeing with the high carb, high water revolution is people are feeling a bit more confident in being risky early and almost like seeing what happens if they can like push the pace early and like hold on to it. So I think we're going to see another race like that, honestly, of people being confident in their fitness and their abilities from the gun, and hopefully they hold it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think we see these races slow down and everyone thinking they have the best kick or whatever, because it always seems like ultra running parallels a lot of the cycling world, but maybe just a couple years behind. And right now what we're seeing in the cycling world, in like the long like grand tours or even these big single day classics, we're seeing the winning move of these races earlier and earlier, where it's like, oh, so and so's trying to break the field with 100K to go. That's unheard of. No one's ever soloed 100K of this race in the history of the 130 years of this race and won. And then it happens. Like we keep seeing these early moves. And it's largely fueling related. And I do think we are seeing that start to, definitely start to make its way to these competitive ultra races, especially in something like super downhill like this. Like the fueling does matter for these downhill races too. Keep that quad damage at bay and fuel those muscle contractions.
Definitely.
So no course record watch, Leah?
I don't think so. I think we'll see maybe like Emily or Marianne go aggressive off the front, but I'm glancing at Katie's Strava over here from last year, and I think what was just so impressive about her race was the fact that like she did not let up at all. Like I'm looking through her whole file, and like she was running in like the 6 and 7 minute gap pace, like pretty much the entire race, with like maybe 1 or 2 miles with like an 8 something gap pace on Strava, which is just highly impressive whenever you're running for 9+ hours. So
I think that was her best race last year.
I think it was. Yeah, I definitely think it was.
And that's saying something.
I don't know. UTMB was pretty good too, though.
It was. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Western States was pretty good too. But I guess one thing that would be kind of alluding to then is like, if someone were to take down Katie's course record here, or even come within a couple minutes of it, to me, that immediately means they are the favorite to win Western States. If we're saying that this was Katie's best race last year, and then she went on to crush people at Western States. And I don't know if anyone in this field has raced recently to that caliber where I'm confidently like, oh yeah, they will immediately be in that. But, Leah, like you said, like I can definitely see, Emily Hogan, Marianne Hogan, at least trying, like
I think
not fully letting it go.
I think so too. And yeah, just something of note for our listeners. I don't think you get crew. I mean, yeah, you don't get crew until Michigan Bluff.
It's a while.
You have aid stations at like Deadwood 1, Devil's Thumb again, and then Deadwood 2. But Michigan Bluff is 23.8 miles in, which actually comes pretty quickly whenever it's like mostly downhill until that point. But that is pretty significant in 100K. That's the first third of the race. And so, like you mentioned, Brett, with nutrition, I think runners are going to be carrying a bit more on them, especially if they want to hit their hydration and nutrition goals.
Yeah, the crew access on this course is kind of weird because it's like Michigan Bluff, Forest Hill. It's like you're not really going full crew at either of those. You like go full crew at one and half crew at the other. And then what is it? Driver's Flat?
Yeah.
45 or so. And then that's it, right?
Yeah. Driver's Flat, and then you're 7, and then
it's a 63-mile race. So then you're like 18.
Yeah.
Oh man,
that's
getting tough right now.
Hot.
Yeah. So it's like, who's going to be the person to do their own ice at non-crude aid stations? Kind of like we saw mistakes being made at Black Canyon this year where people did not do their ice. They prioritized getting through fast, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Who's going to see those mistakes and learn?
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to read off of this stat to you guys to preface the question. But so Katie was already in Western, so she was in position for a golden ticket, but it moved down. So the people that took tickets last year, Rod took second place, Petter took 11th, Anna took 11th, Kareth took 14th at Western States. And the reason I bring those up is we've even entertained it. The question of like, is the time between Canyon's 100K and Western States, like, is that turnaround time? Does that put a dent in anyone's chances to feel remotely fresh, ready to get after it at the end of June? I feel like the answer is kind of complicated and depends on the athlete. Looking at the fields here, like on the women's side, Leah, are you worried at all? Or like, could you see someone like a Marianne, if they decide to run Western in June, like it's a non-factor in terms of how ready they are?
Yeah, I think I would say generally and across the whole field, my answer has changed over the years. Like 3 years ago, I would have said it's a little risky, or maybe there are certain athletes that can do it better than others. I think with like nutrition and everything, it's gotten a bit easier to do it and do it well. And I think maybe there's a few athletes, I'm just thinking specifically about the women's field, who I'd be a bit more nervous about the turnaround, and that might be the ones who have been susceptible to injuries in the past. So I think if anything, it would be that, not necessarily overtraining between that period. One person that was not on our list of people who've gotten a golden ticket in the past, but somebody who I do think will be highly competitive in the field is Sarah Beal. And I'm not positive if she's run 100 miles yet. I don't think she has. So I think for people like her, where it would then be her first 100 miler if she were to get a golden ticket, that feels a little scarier for the turnaround. But I think most of the people in the field should be able to do it decently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always say Canyons is too close to Western States. So this year I'm officially changing my mind and just saying no. Like the footwear tech. Well, no, the game has changed. The footwear tech, the fueling, the cooling. Yes, it allows you to run harder, but you also finish the race not on E as much as before, and that goes a long way towards recovery into your next race. So, and I don't know if that's across the entire podium.
Yeah.
It seems like the winners of these races, they get blessed with like magical healing powers. Because there's been a lot of people to win this race and then go win Western States.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting.
I would say one thing that we need to keep in mind, especially for the runners who might be listening, that I think does actually hinder recovery quite a bit between the two is the poison oak that you acquire at canyons. Like, it is so much so that like it impacts your sleep for a month. It impacts like just like your general feeling well, because it can be so bad. So I think if anything's impacting recovery, I know Katie Scheid had it pretty bad last year and MK did as well, but I think that's actually that can ruin your month.
That is a really good point. Like, especially if you had to with really bad poison oak, if it like opens up and that gets infected and then you have to take like antibiotics or something, like that wrecks your gut. Now you can't take in your carbs anymore. You got to go buy all your fancy probiotics.
Yep.
Like, that is actually a really interesting like X factor that gets talked about. Like UTMB finally did a post of like, this is what poison oak looks like. Don't wipe your ass with it. But yeah, you're right. Like that kind of would need to go into the immediate post-race recovery protocol of like the Technu wipes.
Totally.
With cool water. Don't use hot water. It opens up your pores and the oil soaks in better. So don't use hot water. But yeah, that's super interesting.
I got one more question before we get into maybe picks, and it's for either of you if you've been studying Strava. Is anyone in this year's field training like Katie was last year, where it's like multiple big weeks strung together, living on really like the far outreaches of impressive training as a pro? Are there people like Katie in the field, or is it more moderate training?
Marianne, kind of.
Yeah, Marianne kind of. Marianne's always like kind of there. I think between like running and biking, she was putting in like a few 20+ hour weeks there for a couple weeks. Well, actually for like 6 weeks. But I think this is her best volume that she's had in a while, and it's actually dialed back from some of her like more extreme training cycles. And I think she does best from like a physical standpoint. I think when she is in this sweet spot of where she's been right now.
And
yeah, go ahead, Brett.
She had a good, I mean, that Solomon training camp looked pretty fun. I mean, because I saw a whole bunch of like Instagram stories and like Courtney DeWalter's Instagram of like, oh, going on these long runs. But then you just go look at Marianne's Strava. You can see everything that they did because Marianne puts it all on Strava. And like, dude, they had like a 50-mile day in there but it wasn't that slow. It was like a 50-mile day with 14 or 15,000 feet of climbing, like 8 hours.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, they're hammered. And that was like sandwiched within 120-mile week.
Yeah.
And it was like, damn, okay. So Marianne's been putting in some big volume, not nearly as consistently as Katie last year, whereas like Marianne's biggest weeks seemed bigger, but she also had more smaller weeks in between. And
yeah,
that's always been kind of Marianne's training style. Maybe it's just more by feel or something.
Yeah, I'm just glancing at Marianne's training here, and like end of March, beginning of April, she had like a 3.5-hour run. The next day she did a 5.5-hour run. The next day she did a 3-hour bike. Then the next day they did that 8+ hour run at Solomon training camp. So I think that's like a really hefty little block there that I think probably puts her in pretty great shape for this.
Micro blocks are still in.
They're cool now.
Leah, you said something interesting before we hit record. You said it's harder to be a dark horse now.
Totally. Yeah, I think we were going through these lists, and like I looked at everybody and I was like, nobody really feels like a dark horse anymore. Like, of most people, and I don't know if it's, social media makes it easy to be a fan of people these days, or like people are putting themselves in competitive races on live streams, so you kind of get familiar with who they are when they're like in the mix of the top 10 at these competitive races. But even when you look at the elite list that Canyons put out, you recognize every single person on there and you're like, yeah, they will probably be in the top 10. They're solid. Yeah. I will say the overall list is a bit harder to sift through, and I think a lot of people can probably agree with that. Like, you have to filter by country and then gender and then distance, and then even so it still brings back a sample that's too big that you can't even search for. So like if you search 100K men USA, you can't bring back a sample, so then you have to like search for specific names. But yeah, I think a couple of the women who aren't on the elite list, likely due just to a lack of a UTMB index, that fell within the elite range, was like McKendree Hickory, who won High Lonesome this past year, Abigail West, who was recently a top 5 at Chuckanut, Anna Fisher, our good friend in Salt Lake City, and one of Brett's athletes, who recently got a top 10 at Trans Gran Canaria.
Go Anna.
And then I think Andrea Pomeranski. So Andrea spends a lot of time doing like road distances and has represented Team USA on a few of our world's teams for like 50K and 100K. So excited to see her at the trail 100K distance.
Yeah, it seemed like there was less texting back and forth this year. Usually as we're getting ready for these preview episodes, we're like keep throwing names back and forth to each other, like so and so, like, do you know them? Do you know them? And like, there's always a good handful. Like, I only asked for like one name, was like, and it was I didn't, apologies if I'm butchering the name, but Madison Leichty. She was at the bottom of the elite entrance list, and then I went and did some like Strava sleuthing, and I was like, okay, I would say relative newcomer to this level of trail racing, but running out of Bozeman, the like training block on Strava has looked very smart, very good quality, but still decent volume. I think snuck 9th at Black Canyon this year, but
In a fast time, 9:11.
also a win at the I Am Tough 100 miler last year, which was actually a very good time. It was only 20 minutes off of the course record, which was like, I don't think she had run anything farther than 50K, at least on ultra sign up prior to that. And then just blasts this like massively hard 100, but then switches it up, goes to 9th at Black Canyon, trains with some very fast runners out of Bozeman as well, while still getting some solid trail time. So she might be the dark horse name to be paying attention to.
Definitely.
Okay. Should we do, well, this is 2 separate questions, but maybe should we go 6 deep for our predictions just to account for how far back the golden ticket should go, or how do you want to do?
Can you let us know of this before we make our picks?
No, I think we do 5.
Let's do 5.
I wrote down 5.
We'll do 5. Sorry.
I didn't write down 5, so mine are going to be off the cuff. You can go first, Brett.
So I guess I'll go from 5 to 1. So in 5th place, I have Keely Henninger because she's got good experience on this course, is around Western States, and had a solid big Alta somewhat
definitely.
recently. And I was looking at her training, and it looks nice, it looks good. And she had a couple, pretty like 3 to 4 hour long runs in Forest Park that like were similar, like elevation gain per mile as canyons. It's like if she just did that exact run for the 100K, absolutely like within the top 5 of this race for sure. And the other thing too is like, like we had talked about, it's like she's a vet of ultra running, like this stage not new to her or anything like that. So 4th place and snagging the last golden ticket, I guess, because one of my people above that is already in Western States. But 4th, I've got Anna Fisher.
Nice.
Let's go.
Because that would, gotta have confidence.
She would take a ticket, you think?
You don't not take a ticket. I mean, I asked her this.
Hey, MK Sullivan, Helmino Faulkner, No,
you don't not take a ticket. No, I asked Anna, I was like, so if you have a pretty good day here and like end up in a golden ticket spot, like, would you run states? And she's like, well, you don't not run states. Like I think her heart is definitely in the more mountainous races, but she did really well at Trans Gran Canaria. And like that is a mountainous race, but it's also really hot. And it's kind of it's a tough race. So coming off of that into canyons, I'm like, okay, good experience in the big stage. Another Anna in 3rd, Anna Loudon.
Nice.
I think she's in a good trajectory and seems to want to get back to Western States. 2nd place, I've got Emily Hogan, who's already in Western States, so will not need a golden ticket. And then I've got Marianne Hogan for the win. I think Marianne's just gonna go and be like, I'm back. I'm ready to.
Yeah.
And then assuming this goes to plan there and she stays healthy post canyons, she immediately goes into my conversation as like one of the picks to win the race.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's what I've got for my top 5, with the golden tickets going to Marianne, Anna Loudon, and Anna Fisher.
Nice, I like that.
Leah, let's save the best for last. I'll go now.
As proof that you're not copying Leah.
Let's save the most accurate for last. I'll go. I went 6, so I'll go 6 to 1. I've got Marianne Hogan in 6th. I've got Keely Henninger in 5th for the same reasons Brett you described. I think she seems like she's back to form, which is exciting. I've got Katie Asmuth in 4th. I've got Anna Loudon in 3rd. And I think if I was to answer my own question about like higher volume training, Anna's putting in a lot of work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to believe that translates here in a few days. I've got Anna Loudon in 3rd, returning to States. I've got Emily Hoggett in 2nd. And then I've got Jasmine Lowther for the win.
Mm-hmm.
And so this would make her a 2-time winner, once in both directions, uphill, downhill. And I mean, she's had injury issues in the past few years, but whenever she's at a start line, I put her on like the highest pedestal. I guess I was wrong, but there was that year where she raced Trans Gran Canaria against Courtney, and it was the one time where I felt like someone had a chance against Courtney. It didn't end up working out, but she's a fantastic athlete, super talented. My only question is, given her preferences and her partnership status with like Arc'teryx, is she angling to run Western? Could we have an unintentional defense of the golden ticket here that possibly rolls down past 6 and someone misses out? But as it stands now, I'm assuming she wants to go, and I've got Jasmine, Anna Loudon, and Katie Asmuth going back to Western this year, which I think makes the field super exciting.
I like that.
It's a cool one. And that's all, like, that would be like 3 people who've gotten golden tickets before getting golden tickets again.
But I will say this about our mutual friend, Anna Fisher, all 3 of us good friends. I think she's really talented, but I think one thing long-term that excites me about her is she's very detail-oriented and does all the small things super well. I think that will bode well for long-termism. Like, if she doesn't get it this year, I could see if she keeps at it for Western, like it really could happen. She's got the talent plus the work ethic. So excited to see how it kind of plays out on Saturday.
All right.
And coached by Brett. So the wisdom there, and like just the expertise at, at will
I've
call.
blown up here before. I know what not to do.
Okay, so let's see here. I've got Sarah Beal in 5th. I feel like she's been just quietly putting in the work for a while now. I do think like the things she struggled with in past 100K races and 50-mile races tends to be just her nutrition. And I feel like she's dialing that in. So I think we'll see Sarah Beal kind of return to like the really competitive races, and we find her in the mix up there in 5th place.
Okay.
Let's see here. I'll put, you guys are watching me just do this live here, Priscilla Forgy in 4th. Priscilla's, I think she does great on these trails and was 2nd place to Eden Nielsen here in 2023 and top 10 at the last 2 iterations of Western States. 3rd place, we've got Erin Clark. So Erin's another one that I think we saw her narrowly miss a golden ticket at Javelina this year. Ran a really, really great race there. And I would say I feel like nothing really went wrong in that race for her. It's just a really good race. And I think that gave her confidence. And something she said after that race, or maybe even before that race, was she knows that like this golden ticket hunt might take a few tries for her, and she's totally okay with that. And like was dedicating herself to that for the season. So I think we will see her in 3rd place. I'll put Katie Asmuth in 2nd and Emily Hawgood number 1.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no Marianne in your top 5.
Yeah, that might be risky,
Okay.
but I'm going for it. I will note that Marianne was, I mean, she looks healthy based on her training and everything right now, but she was supposed to line up at Tarawera, but she did pull out from that with like a little injury beforehand, but she said it was largely because she wanted to play it safe and it wasn't necessarily anything that was aggravated, but just a good decision that she's learned from prior years that she needs to make. So definitely rooting for her.
Good to practice winning before Western States too, when you're that close to being in contention for the win at Western. I know that's an obvious. That's the depth is deep type statement.
Yeah.
No, I think there's more depth to that statement than the depth is deep. Practicing winning is hard to do. Like it's winning a race is really hard. Like there's a lot of people who are fit enough to win the race.
Yeah.
Like every race there's like 30 people who are fit enough to win it. But executing all of those things and blocking out all the pressure, not screwing up, makes winning really hard.
That actually, like, that brings a good point up about Emily Hawgood. I feel like she doesn't really get these like headlining wins ever. Like they're often like 2nd place, 3rd place, 4th place, 5th place, and we haven't really seen her. I'm looking at her just UTMB index page right here, and her only win in recent years was at Chianti 100K in 2024. Everything else has been somewhere in the top 10, and I feel like that tends to keep happening. So yeah,
Right.
2020 she won I Am Tough. But yeah, a lot of like second, third, fourth, fifth place finishes for her. So would love to see her win a bigger one here.
Yeah, and this race is a really good opportunity for her to practice
Yeah.
something different to like win the race, because if it doesn't go, that way, you're already running Western States. It's okay.
Transition to the men's field before we close up. Brett, I think the question that I want to ask you to kick this thing off is what we were talking about in the women's field. Like, is there a clear front runner? Like, for example, is Rod on his own island here at the front of this thing, or is he joined by colleagues? How are you thinking about this field?
I saw two. Well, so I think there's going to be a rather large lead pack in the men's race. But if we're going like who is going to be the one that's actually leading it, I do think it will be Rod. But I think the other person who I would put, I could see them working together because they've been training together a lot right now, that's Rod and Francesco Pupi. Francesco's a very fascinating storyline for this race because Francesco's in really good shape right now. I mean, we've seen that with his last few races, and with his Lake Sonoma performance last year, I feel like Canyons 100K is like right up his alley for like the perfect kind of race for Francesco to excel in. And well, I guess the other thing too is Rod, up until somewhat recently, was planning on running the 50K. But Rod is now in the 100K, so it's like maybe they're and Francesco has stated that he doesn't intend on taking a golden ticket, and this is just racing. So it's like, well, Rod and Francesco could just kind of work together because Rod's already in Western States. Francesco's not trying to do golden tickets. So it's like they could go nuts from the front. Like, and I think because of that, I think they are going to control the dynamic of the race.
I think so too. And I got to run with Rod about a month ago out in Santa Barbara, which has awesome trails, by the way. Like, great place to train. I would love to I don't know, give somebody my house for the winter and they give me their Santa Barbara house.
You go swap with Oprah or someone.
I need to, because oh man, I was in love. But yeah, something that Rod had said out there, we were running, and I said, oh, like, you're running canyons, and he had said similar to what you said, Brett, that initially he was signed up for the 50K, but he had asked the organization, like, are runners allowed to like move up in distance if they want to? And then he got automatically moved up to the 100K, and he's like, oh, guess I'm doing the 100K now. But I asked him, I was like, okay, does that impact like how you're training for this, how you're thinking about it, how you'll approach Western States? Like, have you changed your training much, or will you do exactly what you did last year? And normally I just expect that answer to be like, no, what I did last year worked, I'm sticking with it. And he's like, no, I've switched it up a ton. And I thought that was really cool to see that, like, somebody at his level who had a lot of success last year is really making these like little tweaks in his training with his coach, to see like truly how much he can get out of himself. So I think last year was about like building confidence and seeing his potential, and this year is about like capitalizing on it.
I messaged Rod like a couple hours ago and was like, do you have a quote that I could give for our preview episode on the record?
We should do that more often.
I know, because I was just like, I see you're signed up for the 100K. You got a quote about that? And he was like, well, Katie Scheid's triple started at Canyons. So and I was like, okay. So like that's where the intentions are there. Like you got to win Canyons if you want your triple to go correctly. So I like that. That was a good quote.
That's a great
Thank
quote.
you, Rod. Rod's not listening to this.
There's no way.
For Rod, we have a listener question. Will Rod run faster than last year? If he does, what does it mean?
I think he does. I think he's in better shape than last year.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like his 9 Trails race was filthy.
Awesome.
It was so good.
Yeah, and I think he went, like, surprised himself
right back. Yeah, and he went right back into training after that. So like I think Rod's very fit, and he knows what it takes to win Western States. Like he saw what almost won Western States. He got to see firsthand. Because like no one in the Jim Walmsley era has like really seen beyond mile 50 what it takes to win Western States, because Jim is always gone. Like
True.
Rod actually got to see it, past the river. And that's a pretty massive peek behind the curtain that no one's ever really gotten to see before. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if assuming like the weather is similar to last year, if we see Rod go faster than last year. With that being said, I don't think he would be by himself as much as last year, even if he goes faster.
Brett, you mentioned Francesco being the counterpart there. And yeah, when we were in Gran Canaria for TGC in February, happened to run into him at the expo. First question I ask him is, what's your status with canyons? What are your intentions? Is Western States a remote possibility? And he said, no, I don't want to mess up my schedule, but I am thinking about Black Canyon for 2026. And I think I just let it be. But now that we're on this public platform and I can do a little open campaigning, where's camera three? Francesco, if you happen to be out there, this is Finn. This year's Western States is way too historically important for you to bypass. You can always do other races at different times, but how many opportunities do you have in your career to be on the same start line with the most important runners of your generation, like on one start line in this era of incredibly diluted competitive fields? This is one of the chances. If you don't do it, I think you're going to regret it for the rest of your career. So if you're in a position to take a ticket, please take it. Don't worry about how the rest of the year unfolds. Signed, Finn.
And you've got 2 weeks to think about it too.
And 2
weeks.
That's
a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Something I'm thinking about though. Can you imagine like going into this race, getting a golden ticket, and like never once thinking about the fact that you could run 100 miles in less than 2 months? Like, I think for somebody that would be like, had convinced themselves that they are not going to take the ticket, that the mental gymnastics it would take to get to the point where I'm like committing to training for 100 miles in not very long would be really hard to overcome, personally.
Yeah. But, well, and I'm sure there's a lot of American bias here. I'm thinking just like, but it's Western States. Like, you got your opportunity to like bypass the horrendous lottery system.
Yeah.
And just go do it. Yeah, no, I would love to see Francesco just change his mind and take the ticket, and basically like he could be this year's Adam Peterman of like win Canyon. Is this his first 100K?
Not first. He did Templier.
Okay.
He did Templier, yeah.
Oh, it's shorter though.
Yeah.
So this will be the longest race.
This will be his first 100K. Yeah.
Yeah. So then like Adam Peterman was in this exact same dilemma a couple years ago before he won Western States and then won Worlds. So I'm just saying it's like a good trajectory of success.
Definitely.
Yeah. But with that being said, I do think Francesco is someone who could not easily, but is a good enough racer. He seems to be just clutch too. Francesco is a very good racer.
Yeah.
And he's very fast. He's a good marathoner. Definitely someone who like checks all the boxes to compete for a golden ticket at this race.
I think given the gravity of this year's Western States, if you are a superstar in the sport, which Francesco is, you have an obligation to be at Western States. That's my hot take.
Not to mention the Hoka sponsorship. So
Unbreakable 2 could be an entire Hoka thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've already given the Ovaltine joke, but just throw one more in there.
I'm saying that as a fan. I don't mean to be like too, aggressive.
Well, I mean, if that's just what it ends up being, and like everyone in Unbreakable 2 except for Killian is Hoka, that just should be part of the story, and that is what era that we're in right now, where Hoka's money/athlete manager did a good job.
Yeah.
And like Killian's Luke Skywalker or something.
In the all white.
Oh man.
Who's Obi-Wan Kenobi in that? I don't know. Anyways. All right. Rest of the field. I mean, What else stands out to you, Brett?
Dude, Killian is his own Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I know.
Like, no one taught Killian anything. He learned it all himself. Anthony Costales. He stands out to me. Opened up a season a couple weeks ago in a pretty good 50K. I think it should get decent amount of credit because, yes, while he did lose to Matt Daniels by a healthy margin, Matt is one of the best 50K runners in the world at like runnable 50Ks like that. Like, Matt's so good. I mean, so is Anthony, but if Anthony is training through that 2 canyons, seems like he's in a good spot. He's won this race before in the up. He's, another person who's eligible to take wins on both the up and down course, like Jasmine. And Anthony is one of those people, like you're saying, Finn, offline, where if Anthony starts the race, he thinks he can win it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Another person was Jeff McGavro, who's an interesting and exciting person to see in this 100K field because they are already in Western states. He got his golden ticket at Javelina. So I imagine that this is kind of one of those like Emily Hawgood style races, potentially, where it's like, try your things out, see how your gear works, see how your nutrition works, scope out the course, go see it in the headspace of a race, because that is different than seeing it in the headspace of a training run. I think it's smart. I think it makes sense. Jeff's it's funny, Jeff's another one of those guys where like a lot of people still think of him as like mountain racer, like big mountain guy, skis, hikes things, but pretty fast, then goes and shows everyone that he's pretty good at running as well, and is one of those people that I've always wanted to see race Western states, and I'm glad that he's going to do a little recon mission here.
Yeah, with Jeff, in a weird way, I almost put him in the same cohort as Caleb, where unless you're in the trenches experiencing racing against him as an observer, maybe it hasn't quite seeped in yet just how talented he is. Also came out of the Trails and Tarmac farm system, which is awesome,
Yes.
But Jeff is super talented. I actually, when we get I have him competing for the win at this race.
I don't see why he wouldn't.
I think he's mega talented.
I think you're right. I think he's good enough to win a lot of the races that he starts. And like we've talked about this on the pod before, where it's like you have the races or the distances that you love, but then there's other races and distances that you're actually better at, and one day you might need to just go do those. And like, Jeff, I'm sorry, I don't care if you don't like the Western States course, you're going to run it, and you're going to run it fast, damn it.
And you're going to like it.
Sorry, but that's just how it's going to be.
Okay. Leah, how about you? Any cohorts of athletes or particulars that stick out?
Yeah, there's, a lot of people, again, who have had golden tickets before, or somebody who's just missed a golden ticket a million times, like Justin Grunwald. And Justin's done amazing here a couple years back, before having some like heat-related and electrolyte-related issues and towards the end. But yeah, I'm excited for Eric LaPuma. Curious what Hans Troyer will do out there. He got sick, unfortunately, right before Black Canyon, so I feel like he was there was a lot of chatter about him before that race, and he's had a pretty great last year of running, and his YouTube's a fun follow for anybody listening. He documents a lot of his stuff. But yeah, I think I just want to double down a lot on what Brett was saying too, like Anthony, Rod, Francesco. I think Hannes is a really fun add to this race. One thing about him, so Hannes has had like historic success at like every big race you could think of, but it actually hasn't really raced in the US, maybe at all. So he's had great performances at UTMB, top 10, multiple wins at Lavaredo, and is just awesome. But I'm curious how he will handle like the heat and the elements that are racing on California trails in like that April April to June timeframe. But yeah, and Cody Lynn was a narrow miss of a golden ticket too at Tarawera. I think missing one that Adrian McDonald got. He's like 3 minutes back from him, so hopefully we'll see him back at Western States too.
And previous golden ticket recipient from Canyons, Adam Mary is back. So like he knows what it's like to get a golden ticket here. Kind of like it's like we know it. Like Justin Grunwald knows what it's like to narrowly miss a golden ticket here. Makai Clemens also knows what it is like. He missed one by 2 minutes last year. I think that's what it was. And then had a bad day at Black Canyon. His trainings looked pretty good since Black Canyon. I guess one of the good things about dropping out at 50K is like you don't trash your body with 100K of racing. So he's able to jump back into things pretty good. It looked like there was one little blip kind of week a few weeks into the training block for Canyons, but last few weeks has looked good. So yeah, battle Makai versus Justin. Which bridesmaid's gonna actually get the ticket, if any?
I think that's a good matchup too, from like skill set wise as well.
Yeah.
The only concern I have about Hans, because if you look at his Strava, he's there's no shortage of hard work there. Like he's putting in a ton of volume. My only concern is the ratios seem a bit off for Canyons. I'm not sure he's climbing enough, but he's so talented and so young. I'm not sure it matters. That is the only asterisk that I put next to his chances, is like compared to some of these other guys that are out there. Eric is on course, for example, right now in Auburn, putting in the miles. That when the margins are that tight, is that one of the differentiators? And then with Adam, I just want to shout out Adam Mary, because I don't know where the chips are going to fall for him on race day. I'm just stoked that he's back in Boulder with the Boulder boys getting after it. And I kind of put him in that same category, the same praise that I gave for Anna Fisher. It's like, he just loves training and he loves getting into the details of it. And like, it's just been fun to see that too on Strava come together. Like when he's back in it and he's committed to it, he's getting after it. He kind of preaches excellence. So I don't know where this puts him on race day, but I'm excited that he's back in the thick of it, trying to get back to States.
Yeah. And then a wild card name that's on there that I always kind of never really know, like which version of them is going to show up, is Ryan Montgomery. Like Ryan's had some really, really good races. But like, it seems like he's always doing so much in his life with like school, work, travel, because he went to Tarawera, right?
Yeah, I think he was 6th place there, about 12 minutes off of a golden ticket position.
Yeah, but he's been living over on the East Coast, I think, going to school. So like training for Tarawera out there couldn't have been too easy. So yeah, it's always like I don't know. But it has the the skill set and definitely the work ethic to like do the proper preparation for a race like this. Yeah, there's a good mixture of kind of experience, like Western States people. There's 3 that are already in Western States, with Jeff Mogavero, Rod Farvard, and then Hiroki Kai, who had gotten the golden ticket at Tarawera. Who is where was it that we saw his racing schedule? Was that on his Instagram?
That was on his Instagram, yeah.
Like, you ever see a racing schedule where you got to be like continued in comments? Because it's insane, but so baller that someone who normally you have a racing schedule like that, you're just running races, like you're just finishing them. You got a golden ticket and it's still like, yeah, I'm like doing the America tour. I'm going to run Boston. I'm going to run Canyons, and I'm going to run 9 other races in between then in Western States. And then I'll go run Western States.
He must be taking ketones.
Gotta be the ketones.
I think we talked about this on a previous episode, but I want to do one of those, like, the medical commercials where like they list all the benefits, but there's like a million side effects in small print at the bottom of the thing. I want to do that, like speed read everyone that's possibly a contender, just to like get ahead of all the people like, oh, you didn't mention this person. It's like, oh, we did. They're all in the fine print.
Well, you should just voice over the whole entrance list after we're done with this, and then just speed it up like 1,000x.
From that list, Cody Lind is definitely on there. That guy's legit, and he also was in the mix. I think he barely missed it at Tarawera. I think he was one spot ahead of Ryan. So he's got a lot of experience, and he's had some good Westerns.
Yeah, and I think I was say one of the notable absences that I think I saw was on his Instagram was Rajpal Pandu is withdrawing from the Canyons 100K. Got a little banged up, ramping up his training a little bit too quickly after Jackpot 100, so is going to opt out of this 100K, but he would have been a fun one to see in this race.
8:44 is the current course record. Are we on watch for that to be changed?
I think so. Honestly,
I think so.
Yeah, because I think my argument of last year is like Katie ran exceptionally well. And yes, Rod and the rest of the guys had good days, but I actually think Katie blew them all out of the water. I think she was 6th place overall. And
I agree.
That like 1-to-1, if you're comparing like men's race to women's race, the men could go quite a bit faster. So I think we will see that go down.
I wish I'd pulled up my notes from last year, but I thought that we said that men's winning time was going to be actually faster than it ended up being.
Oh, really? Yeah, I think we
I thought we said like sub 8:30, but then Rod blew everyone.
8:20 and 8:30. Yeah.
Yeah, like I just thought it was going to be like closer to like low 8-hour race, and then Rod blew everyone out of the water with like, what did you say, 8:40?
8:44.
8:44. Yeah, I think I agree with Leah. I think there's time to be taken off the course, and like just I don't know. Last year was weird where Rod's run was really good, but I think his Western States was way better, even though he didn't win. Like I think his 2nd place at Western States, I think that's worth at least like 8:15 or 8:20 on this course.
I think so.
So I think we see the course record get lowered significantly because we see someone like Rod pushing it from the front, but then also people racing him. I don't think he'll be by himself by the top of Deadwood 2.
No.
I think my other hot take for the episode is that we're on course record watch for both fields, and it might not come from the people that go under it, because it could be multiple people. Some of them will not be bona fide superstars.
Like you think it's just like a casual course record?
No, I just think it's a function of like everyone is riding the wave of better information, better execution, better technology, and there's like it's very democratic in who can go under.
Papa John's.
better ingredients, Papa John's.
Brett needs to go to sleep.
I know. Well, you're just like better execution, better pacing, Papa John's.
Papa John's.
Oh man.
Okay. Let's go to our picks. I'll go first because I went second last time, and there's no logic behind that. I just want to go first. I'll go backwards.
It only makes sense.
It only makes sense. Came out of I have got Anthony Costales in 5th place. I've got Rod in 4th. I've got Hannes in 3rd. Francesco in 2nd. Jeff in 1st. I've got Jeff Magavero. I always thought it was Mogavero. I think Mogavero sounds cool. Got that in 1st. Jeff is already in the race, so I've got Francesco taking a ticket. And by the way, Francesco, I don't mean to put too much pressure. Like whatever trajectory you're on, like follow it. I'm just a huge fan. Francesco taking a ticket. Hannes taking a ticket. Rod's already got one. Anthony taking a ticket. So Francesco, Hannes, Anthony are going to States, and similar to Chianti, Brett, we said it after that race, we got the people we wanted for Western States.
Yep, that would be cool. So your golden ticket goes down to 5th?
Goes down to 5th.
Okay. Leah, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm just perusing Strava's over here. Last question before I make my 5 here. I remember where I was. I bet on Justin Grunwald at Javelina, and then it didn't work out for me. However, I am still going to bet on Justin Grunwald here. I've got him in 5th place. Awesome. We'll see if I'll see who I have ahead of him, and we'll see if the golden ticket rolls down to him or not here in a second. Then we've got Eric LaPuma in 4th place. Anthony Costales in third place. I think we'll do Francesco Poopy in second place, Rod Farbard in first place, and curious to see how Hannes Namberger's day goes because I don't have him in my top 5, which is also, it's tough to race internationally in the U.S. for the first time. So,
Leah, we have very similar top 5s.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, although I am on Team Mackay instead of Team Justin.
I get burned. Like sometimes I choose Mackay, sometimes I choose Justin, and this one I had to go no Mackay.
Yeah.
Mackay.
I do sincerely hope that one of us is right.
I know.
Like I don't want both of us to be wrong.
I know.
Brett's trying to knock Mackay out of the Twisted Fork 68K field.
Oh,
yes, precisely. I need him. Yes, I need him to get a golden ticket.
Yeah, Brett needs you to get a golden ticket, Mackay.
Mackay, I need you to get it. You let me know how many kneecaps I need to break.
Brett needs to practice winning.
Yeah, I need to. With Mackay in the Twisted Fork field, I cannot practice winning. He's too good. I saw it. Even an off day Mackay at Black Canyons was so much faster through 50K than I did the next day racing the 50K. So, I've got Eric LaPuma in 5th.
Nice.
I've got Anthony Costales in 4th. Mackay Clemens in 3rd. Francesco in 2nd, and Rod winning the race. So my golden tickets go to Mackay, Anthony, and Eric LaPuma.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I think that would be pretty sweet.
That would be awesome.
Rumor on the street is Eric LaPuma's pretty fit right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
He put in a 34-mile run on the course the other day, so
yeah. And going back to your, I hope he doesn't get any poison oak from that 34-mile run.
I know. Yeah.
On the course. I mean, I think he had some buddies with him, hopefully, to let him know about the Leaves 3 and to let them be and Technu and stuff. But
plus the mental toughness to train through a Vermont winter, which Eric does year over year. That deserves credit too.
Yeah. Yep.
It gets to a point where you just need to move to Salt Lake City, though.
I know. Our doors are wide open.
Yeah.
We are working with local government officials to make this an easy transfer of living accommodations.
He won't get deported back to Vermont. Nice. No mental toughness. No steely toughness here in Ashland, Oregon. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's like 73 out right now.
It snowed in Salt Lake today, so.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. You need steely toughness here.
Yeah. No, the trails are good. Like right now in Ashland is a good time to be training for Western States. It's getting good. Yeah.
Getting your ostrich laps in.
You could go bigger. You go higher than ostrich now. The snow levels are getting high.
All right. Well, this has been an awesome Canyons preview. I wish I could say, here's where you go to consume content for the race. I don't know that answer. I don't think any of us do, but perhaps Free Trail. I don't think I Run Far. We'll just wait and see. So
should Singletrack do a watch party, except it's just you and me talking about things like rumors that we're hearing out on course.
Live tracker.
Yeah, we could just be texting all of our friends.
Yeah. I mean, between the three of us, we could actually we could source a pretty decent amount of information out there. Unless we're all out there, then in that case, sorry everyone, we're going to go enjoy a day at the races.
We should document